Most high, glorious God, bring light to the darkness of my heart. Give me right faith and certain hope, a perfect charity, insight and wisdom, so I can always observe your holy and true command. Amen. Here are the images that we're going to be talking about now. First of all, looking at the image of Jesus. It represents someone like Jesus who was wounded and strong. But you want to look at the halo. But the halo is, in fact, it's the glorified Christ. See the gold there? It's a glorified Christ. And that's very, very important. That distinguishes this cross, this crucifix, from any other that we have in our time. There is no other crucifix like this, in that it's an image of Christ crucified, and it's an image of Christ resurrected, and it's an image of Christ ascended. The colors are very prominent around Jesus, so that you'll notice he is among all these people that are here, and they're all smaller. But Jesus is very, very prominent. So in other words, he is our focus. This is an icon, which is another beautiful thing about it. It was hand-painted by one individual. And in having that hand-painted, that person had to pray first. That's how icons are made. And when they say pray, and they come up with an image, as this particular iconoclast did, and we don't know who he is or her. We have no idea who painted this. And iconoclasts don't like to use the word painted. They say an iconoclast writes an image, because everything that's painted there is saying something to us. And so when you see an icon, they give you this magnificent message. And that's why they don't put their name on it. So we really don't know who that is. I've got some guesses, though, and I'll share that with you as that comes along. Now, this is a 13th century icon. And when this was hanging in San Damiano Church, which is really St. Damian, San Damiano Church, and this is why it's called the San Damiano Crucifix. When it was hanging there and Francis came in and he was praying, he happened to be looking up at the cross, his lips moved. And it is said the eyes were not open, but then they opened and he spoke. And the eyes have been open ever since. Now, who are the major witnesses here? There are 4 major ones here, and one doesn't have a halo. We're going to start with Mary. She's on the left side here. Mary, the mother of Jesus. Then comes St. John, the beloved, the apostle, who was the only apostle at the crucifixion. And then we have Mary Magdalene is the first one. Second is Mary, mother of James. She was the one who said, well, when you enter into heaven, can my son be on your right side? Those are all saints. You can see the halo. You can see their triumph as well. But there's one that does not have a halo. Any idea as to who that is? Here it is. Listen to this. Very interesting. The centurion of Mark's gospel, who proclaimed that Jesus was truly the Son of God because he asked him, his servant was dying. And so he asked Jesus to come and cure the servant. That's the centurion who asked him to do that. Okay? And he proclaimed him as truly the Son of God. All right? And then if you look closely at your picture, is that, look at his fingers. He's going like this. All right? And what that means is, I am speaking. And in those days, what that meant was, it meant this: I am testifying that Jesus is Lord, because he experienced that miracle of the servant being healed. See? We're still looking at the whole picture now. You can see Mary and Mary Magdalene have something in common. They have their hands on their cheeks like this. People that were talking 13th century, they would recognize what that meant, okay? And what that meant is that they were in extreme grief and anguish. That's what that means. Of course Mary was. And Mary Magdalene loved him so, okay? And they were in extreme anguish over this. Now, you're going to have to look really closely for this next one. Look at the centurion and look behind him. There's a tiny, tiny man. We don't know the name of that man, but frequently the artists put their own face in there. If you remember, those of you who have been to Rome and have seen the Sistine Chapel, okay? And who is that done by? Michelangelo, and you'll see his face up there. Okay, he did that. And this is very common in those days. So I really do think, we don't know his name, that is the artist who did this. Now, looking at the angels right here, go right here under the arms, and we have the angels there. And look at what they're doing to one another. They're talking to one another. That's what they're doing. Okay? And so what is that all about? And so they're discussing something. What they're discussing is the marvel, the wonder of the death of Jesus, the Son of God. They're talking about that. These heavenly angels. All right? And if you look a little bit to the right over here on this side, they're trying to say to us, and you should wonder and marvel over what Jesus did. Isn't that powerful? It's powerful. And so that's a message also for us. We're going to go to the minor witnesses, and we're going to find them way down here. See, they're getting smaller and smaller. We have one here on the right, and we have one here on the left. They're real tiny. They're almost facing one another here. There are two soldiers there, okay? The one on the left is the Roman soldier. Longinus is his name, and he's holding a lance. Can you see it? He's holding a lance that pierced Jesus' heart. I'm teasing you. You can't see it. Okay. There's something else there that you can't see, but you'll sort of see it on the crucifix over there. It's just not as strong on this as it is up here. But you see, when Jesus was being nailed here, the way this iconoclast did this, it's fascinating to me. There's a lot of blood being shed, and you see that beautifully, don't you, on this crucifix? But on here, this iconoclast takes a little further. The blood is coming down off of his arm, and it's dripping down directly into the eye of that soldier, because he was blind in one eye, and he's the one who pierced him, and he got his eyesight back when the blood came into his eye. Okay, you also see some blood over here, but in this case, this guy can see, so apparently he didn't need a cure. But what he has, he was supposed to have had a staff, and there was a sponge on the end of it. Now you know what he did, okay? That's sour vinegar, and he took it up to him. This crucifix that I saw in Rome, the original, was restored in 1938. And what puzzles me is that they didn't put the staffs back in, because they faded away over time. And they didn't put the two staffs, the poles in where they had the vinegar, and the other one where it was the sword that went into his heart. But you look at the figures, you can see they're holding something. You can see it, okay? But they did not fix that for some reason or another. Now, we're going to jump back for a minute and going to go to the onlooker. We call the onlooker, we think that's the artist, don't we? Okay, it's a little bit more than that. This we know for sure. It's a little bit more than that. All right? And it's hard for you to see it on this one, but boy, you'll see it clearly on this. And if you get your binoculars, you can see it on that one up there. Okay? There are 1, 2, 3 heads behind the artist. The 3 more heads. And I found out that the people who are writing about this call them the onlookers. See? So we're pretty sure the first one's the artist. And the other 3, we don't know who they are, but in 2018, who do you think they are? In 2018, who do you think they are? Or should be? Yes, us. We just had a Eucharist, and you were an onlooker at Calvary. See? And so you take that in as a witness yourself. We are all witnesses to that. It's faith, but you're onlookers of Calvary at our altar every time we have Mass. And it's not a repeated Calvary. It is Calvary. See? It's the one event that happens for all time. And that's the mystery that we don't understand how God did that. But we are. Boy, that's a brilliant way this got painted. Absolutely brilliant. Now, we're going to go to the foot of the cross. And on the foot of the cross, you're going to see 6 figures. You see them?
No.
Boy, you're catching on to me. There are only 2. There were 6, and they got obliterated over time. Again, in 1938, they chose not to put them back in. But I think that was for a very good reason. Here's who the saints were. It was St. John, St. Michael, St. Rufino, St. John the Baptist, and you know what the last 2 are, Saints Peter and Paul. But I'm kind of glad that they didn't put them in there. I really am. Here's the reason. You know, I've gotten my family, my 2 grandmothers. They were the saints of the family. And when I look at this crucifix, I put them in the empty spot. See, that's why the iconoclasts chose not to put them back in. They wanted us to put people in there that we sometimes forget about, and yet we have faith because of them. And they are the saints that are in eternity today. And this is a way, when you see that empty spot, to continue to remember them in prayer and ask them to help you. Father Murray Bodo wrote a prayer for every piece on here, every piece. And he entitles this one, All you anonymous men and women whose faces are erased. Beneath the feet of Jesus, help us rebuild the house of remembrance for the saints that have been in our families. Let us not forget those who have gone before us, those whose names we've ceased calling upon, whose faces are blurred by our reliance on the wisdom of our own times and our preoccupation with the present. Help us to be grateful for what we've been given and those holy people in our lives, that you can now put them there. This is the first thing that happens when someone makes this crucifix, is they forget one thing. I got one over at the house. Someone gave me that one. It's gorgeous, small one. It's not the one we give out to the people, but it's a different kind of one. And the artistry of that icon is just beautiful. But I looked at it closely, and I thought, it's missing the rooster. The rooster. It's hard to find it on here. I'll tell you where it's at, and you'll have to squint at it, but you'll see it in the picture. Here's the knee. We're looking at the left side, and we're coming down right about there and look over. You'll see a tiny little thing, and it's the rooster. Scripturally, what's the rooster remind you of? Peter's denial. That goes well with this crucifix, doesn't it? When I called this artist in Rome, I said, don't you forget the rooster. He did that exactly. He laughed at me too. He says, but I won't, The rooster, I love that little rooster because when I look at it, it says to me, oh, I could deny the Lord too. That's what that says. We're going to take a jump way up to the top, and there we see at least 10 angels. What that is, that's a heavenly welcome by all those angels. So what is that saying? The image on this cross is also in heaven. He has resurrected. He has ascended. See? And they're being welcomed by the angels, and look closely at Jesus. He's welcoming them. Look way at the top. There's a hand, and it's like this. God the Father has his hand right there towards Jesus, and he is saying that, oh, Son, I am so pleased what you have done. You did everything I asked you to do. So what did the Father do then? He raised him from the dead. That's what that means. The power of the Father. He raised him from the dead. He is telling us, I also, at the ascension, brought him into heaven. So he raised him first from the dead because he stayed around a little while. And then he assumed him into heaven. That was all the power of the Father. Jesus had nothing to do with that. See? But, oh my goodness, This is a beautiful thing to pray about when you're looking at that image. The hand is in a position of blessing. Next one's a mystery. We can look at it in two ways. Now take your eyes and go right down to the bottom, and we're going to see this blackness. And its feet is right over that blackness. Remember that Apostles' Creed that said, and he went down to hell? Do you think he went down to hell? What's the right teaching on that? Hell is a term that kind of fits what that really means, but it's confusing when we say hell. Why would Jesus go down into hell? He didn't go down into hell. That's not the right term for it, in a sense. As we understand it today, he went down into purgatory. And he brings those people up because now he's redeemed them. See? So he's bringing them out of that darkness. All right? That's one meaning. Now you can accept whichever one you want or take both of them. But when I did another research, I kind of like this one too. Because you can graphically almost see it. So I'm inclined this way, but I like the other meaning more so. But look at this. Watch my finger. See here? Watch. Going all the way up. And this is supporting him. See? And yes, it makes him the center, but there's some meaning about this blackness. Here's the other meaning. He's in his coffin, and he's raising it from the dead from that. See? And yet it gives him also the meaning front and center. It's all about worshiping Jesus, front and center. And so color-wise, it does that. But boy, the fact that he is standing right in that. I love the other meaning. You know, bringing all those others up once the redemption took place out of purgatory. This is a summary of the teaching. First of all, it's Christ's death, resurrection, and ascension. And the resurrection and ascension brings in the Father tremendously, his blessing, Jesus in his death. And then you see also in this teaching, you see Jesus' humanity and his divinity. See? That's what I love about that. You don't see that in other crucifixes. And you also see this. He is rising also from the tomb. We're going to suffer as Jesus suffered, but we also are going to be resurrected as Jesus resurrected. See? And then the second one, saints witness it by their lives. You and I are identified with the observers, and we are called to be witnesses as the saints are. Okay, here is the last prayer of St. Francis, and this is how we're going to close. I have done what is mine to do. May the Lord show you what is yours to do. St. Francis instructs us to find our own way, to stand among the figures of the cross, and expect that our message will be unique. Amen?
Amen.
There you have it.
Thank you.